A lot of people ask me what my mindset was when I was diagnosed with the brain tumor when I was 21 years old, what it was like after that, and just the ups and the downs, what I experienced, how I came out of it. But not a lot of people ask me about the moment right before surgery. And I never really thought about the moment right before surgery until I started writing for my book, which, some of the positives that had come out of the COVID situation in 2020 from myself personally was I got home from a trip around the 10th of March, I want to say. I was actually out in Tampa with Brian. We were filming a video project for a partner, which not sure when this is coming out, but I'll be announcing that partnership I've created. And a couple days after that is when the lockdown occurred, the quote unquote quarantine, which lasted, it's still going. I mean, it's still going on in certain areas, but it was like 3 months. And as I was trying to think of what to do, I was like, oh, well, I've been trying to fit in writing to finish up the rough draft of my book that I've been putting off for years. And thankfully I did that because a lot of experiences have come, a lot of wisdom has come, a lot of awareness and consciousness, a lot of friendships have come, just a lot of new learnings, a lot of new things to touch upon and then correlate to my past, which I was writing about. And so I just had more stories to tell, more wisdom to add into it, more takeaways, more awareness, and just more value to share. And so the month of March, I think I had like 2.5 weeks left of March at this point. I had been writing and brainstorming and just brain dumping and doing whatever I could to get everything out. But I started writing a chapter a day as a goal, like just whatever came out. Like today's goal is just to write that chapter. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be edited. It doesn't even need to have a title. But the way I worked on it was starting with different pivotal life moments that I've gone through, and then narrowing that down to a title for that chapter based on the experience and the takeaway. And then I just wrote and wrote. And then through some conversations leading up to that, and then the moment of writing and just being in that flow state and just the unconscious mind just unloading and all these ideas and memories and experiences coming to the forefront, and then me putting them down on paper, it really just triggered this idea that I opened the book with. Well, I don't think I think I intended on opening. I think it became chapter 2. But it's diving into this fear aspect that we talk about and we experience, and the difference between perceived fear, as in thinking of something that's going to create that uneasy feeling, and it's going to trigger our alarm systems to go off to create survival, which is not needed anymore for the most part. It's needed in a lot of situations, but the majority of what we experience as a society in terms of fear is man-made. It's self-made. It's made-up experiences that aren't a life or death situation is what I'm trying to say. The fear majority of us experience on the majority of our days, is fear that does not provide any survival. It doesn't provide any benefit in that term. But then there's actual fear, like life or death fear. And where I'm going with this is I don't think I've ever been asked about what I had going through my mind the moment before brain surgery. When they inserted the IV into my arm, I actually took a photo of it for Instagram or Facebook, whatever it was back then. It was 2010, so I don't think Instagram was out yet. But I remember taking a photo of that arm with that IV, and then that's when I literally just had to surrender. I had been working on that, having faith in the process and the surgery, but I literally had to give up all bits of control, all bits of fear, all bits of worry, curiosity, everything. And I just had to surrender to the unknown, giving my life, or giving the responsibility of my life to the hands of surgeons, and just let's see what happens. And so it's really fascinating because people have asked me, what was it like being diagnosed? What was it like recovering? What was the surgery like? But no one asked me about that specific moment, laying in that bed, looking at my family, looking at the doctors, saying goodbye, saying I love you, really just having this dialogue with myself and God, the universe, just focusing on what I wanted to happen. And that's where I see a lot of people getting confused with fear. And what I used to do was, I spent a lot of time worrying about what I didn't want to happen. And so when I was diagnosed, that was a perceived fear. Nothing had changed in my current reality that wasn't already there except for my awareness. I gained information I crossed that information with past experiences, past memories, past thoughts, past emotions, and I just came up with this thought of fear of death. Literally, the first thing that came to mind when I was diagnosed with a brain tumor wasn't, anything other than, man, I'm gonna die. Like, that's what I thought. I thought brain tumor didn't matter about cancer or non-cancerous or malignant or benign. Didn't matter. Didn't matter about the size. I didn't even know the size at the time. I didn't get any other information. No other information crossed my analytical mind other than brain tumor, and then I equated that to death. And then I started thinking, how long do I have to live? What do I do with my things? Why is this happening to me? Am I a bad person? What did I do to deserve this? All of these thoughts. And it came from a perceived fear of death. Because I went on for about 2 weeks before surgery happened where I was alive. I'm still alive after the surgery, so we know that. But there was this perceived fear of death in my future. And that could have triggered me in a different way. Thankfully, I had the mindset and the courage and the mental conditioning built upon my family, teaching me you get up, you try again, you work hard for things you want. My mom's story going through cancer herself with a smile on her face and strong, and taught me that. And she's alive and well today. So I got some of that from her. And then BMX, literally, to get to the level I got at that age, I was 21 when I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. To get to that level as a professional athlete in any sport or any creative place in life, music or a business, or especially sports where it's physically painful, to get to that level, you have to accept that fear is going to be playing a role in your life, that pain is going to be playing a role in your life. But you make the decision of how you want to use those things. That's just information. Pain and fear, to me, is just information. And thankfully to that experience that I went through at a young age of falling, slamming to the ground, getting information of that hurt, what did I do wrong? How can I do it better next time? That just led me through all my injuries. I got hurt. What do I do? How long to get back on my bike, doc? Yeah, that's it. Like, it wasn't like, oh no, I'm never going to be able to ride again, or this or that, or, like scared, there's no fear. A lot of people go through that, and that's not right or wrong. But my perspective was, my vision was so strong, it outweighed any of my circumstances that I was experiencing. The temporary pain, mental or physical. And so coming into that diagnosis, at first, victim mentality set in. I thought I was going to die. I literally took that information and I formed this idea that I was going to die. As the week and a half before surgery, from diagnosis to surgery was about a week and a half. As that time went on, I started to really understand that I had the power to shift my perspective and my focus and my energy onto what I wanted in my life. So rather than thinking, what if I don't wake up? What happens then? Which is pointless. Like, if I don't wake up, I'm dead. Nothing's going to happen. We all have our beliefs what happens after death, but, depending on if you believe in spirituality or religion, it's all going to be different. But physically, as a human being, that's it. So rather than that, I thought, what happens when I do wake up? Not if, when I wake up. That's what I was thinking about. And all I was thinking about was the dream I was currently living that I sacrificed, and I went through literally blood, sweat, and tears to get to that point. And I wasn't ready to give that up. I wasn't going to let this obstacle, let this quote unquote injury, is what I saw it as, hold me back. And I didn't have any time to feel fear anymore. Leading up to that surgery, there was no room for fear, because I was told, you're going to die if you don't have surgery. There's still a chance you may die with surgery, but there's a better chance that you'll survive if you have surgery. So to me, I was like, all right, when do we have it? So that's when I met Dr. Alan Friedman at Duke University. We had the consultation, we scheduled. He actually moved some patients out of his schedule to get me in sooner because my case was so severe. And there was no room for fear. That perceived fear originally manifested from the information I was getting in the original diagnosis, that was gone. Because at this point, I had no options. The only option I had was surgery, and that's what I needed to get to that next level, which was riding my bike again. It wasn't even about life or death at that point. It was a matter of, I was so passionate about riding my bike, and I had done so much to get to that point, and I wasn't ready to let that go. That's what drove me. That's what pushed me. Because people ask, like, what was it that, was it faith? Was it, family? And it was like, literally, it was as simple as I had this vision that I was currently living within and I wanted to progress with. That's what drove me every day. And then learning about Lance Armstrong, I call Lance, a virtual mentor of mine. I have many virtual mentors that I've gained along the way, but I didn't have anyone to relate to that could understand having their skull cut open to remove something trying to take over their life. Like, think about that. I was 21 years old and I was by myself when I was diagnosed. It was an accidental diagnosis. I was getting diagnosed, or I was getting a report from an MRI from 2 days prior from getting a concussion right before that from, falling and hitting my head. I had a helmet on, but I still got knocked out and we had to check for TBI. No swelling, no bleeding, but there was a massive brain tumor. And that's how I found out. I was by myself thinking, I'm just going to be told 2 weeks off the bike, typical concussion protocol. No, I have a brain tumor. And that's when I went into panic mode and thought I was going to die. And so when I was in that process of looking into surgery and scheduled surgery, and I knew I had this date coming up, that was literally like a matter of life or death date I was facing. The perceived fear could have still been there, but I chose to put that thought aside and replace that thought with a higher energy of, what am I going to do when I wake up? How am I going to live my life differently? How am I going to get to the next level in all aspects of my life? What am I going to do to better myself? I literally started auditing like what I could be doing differently. I was like, I could ride 10 hours a day. I could be focusing on this. I could do less of that. And so to me, having someone like Lance Armstrong as a virtual mentor, seeing what that person went through, that's what mentoring is. It's not coaching. It's a form of leadership by just seeing what they did and applying it to your life. That's how I see it. And that's what I do with this, this sort of sharing, speaking, and my programs, whatever it is, my writing. It's to give a roadmap for people to reflect on and reverse engineer and apply to their life. And so knowing Lance Armstrong, mind you, a cyclist, a little different. His objective isn't to go in the air like I am, or my objective is on my BMX bike. It isn't to backflip. It's to keep the wheels on the ground, go fast, and win the race. I don't race. I competed in freestyle BMX, which means the tricks like X Games, Dew Tour, all that good stuff. But this was another professional athlete on a bicycle who had brain, lung, and testicular cancer. And the way I saw it was, if this man could go through 3 times what I'm going through and get back and get to that level, and whether people's opinions of him cheating or doing it wrong or this or that or lying, like, I don't care about any of that. Because unless you've gone through that experience, 1/3 of what he went through, mind you. I've gone through 1/3 3 times, so maybe, I don't know how you want to factor that in, 3 different brain tumor diagnoses. But I've gone through 1/3 of what that man went through, and he got back to that level. Think about the times you've fallen down in life, literally and figuratively. Did you get back up and try again? Did you become fearful of whatever that was? Or did you get to the next level because of that? Did you allow that opportunity to catapult you to the next level of success in your future? That's what that man did, and that's what I told myself I was going to do. I was inspired. I wasn't motivated. I was driven. I had this new perspective on top of the one I was already creating. I was like, I'm going to be like Lance when I get done. I'm going to train all the time. I'm going to be better than I was before. And then that led me down the route of learning about auditing my nutrition, auditing my mindset, auditing fitness. But at the end of the day, when I was going through the actual fearful moment of life or death, giving my life away, having that IV injected into my arm, putting me to sleep, and then just hoping, having faith, wishing, desiring, whatever words you want to use, I was experiencing all of them. It was for my life. Not many people will ever go through an experience where their life is literally threatened and literally in the hands of other people that they don't even know. Yet, far too many of us live with this perceived fear of failure, fear of death, fear of judgment, fear of not succeeding, fear of all these things. And it's just thoughts made up in our mind. So when I got this tattoo, fear is just a thought. Thoughts can be changed. To me, fear is just a thought. Thoughts can be changed is a constant reminder of what I've done in my past to change my thoughts to serve me and what I can go back to, but I won't go back to. It's a reminder to have me pushing forward every day, to not give into my fear, to not give into those negative emotions, those limiting beliefs, those negative thoughts, because it's a choice. It's a painful choice because we're taught to give into fear. We're taught to take the easy route in life because it's practical, it's safe. But it's bullshit. Because I've been able to get to a higher level in my life helping people than the route I was told I should take 6, 7 years ago, which was college, which would have just left me in debt and making a mediocre living. I've been able to 2 or 3x the average age or the average income for what I was thinking I needed to go to school for by doing it myself, by sharing my truth, by helping people, by becoming a mentor and a leader and inspiring these new perspectives. And so at the end of the day, I went through perceived fear with a diagnosis that was so much more profound in how it took over my life than when I was actually facing real fear. And thankfully, that experience of the perceived fear and then all the experiences I had with BMX and falling and the fear and the mentality and the drive to get up and do it again, because I was defined by my vision. I wasn't going to let my circumstances stop me or hold me back. I wasn't going to live by those limiting beliefs and those past memories. Thankfully, I had that mindset because when actual fear for my life was presented to me, it was easier to go through, to handle, to make the decision to walk through that fire than it was the perceived fear as the diagnosis. And I think that if people could understand that the majority of the fear you're going through is your own brain making tricks upon you because of past experiences, memories, and it's the idea is the unconscious mind. The ego is trying to protect you from the unknown. It's trying to save your life. And that's why fear and doubt and stress and overwhelm and depression, all these things are more profound to our bodies and our minds because it means survival. It's the brain trying to protect us from something. When we think about the things we desire, our pleasures, our excitements, our joys, our gratitudes, all these things, it's great, but it's not as powerful to the body and the mind because it doesn't mean survival on the same level being fearful of something does. Because that stems back from our old days as cavemen and our monkey brain, whatever you want to call it, a reptilian brain. Like it literally meant, stress meant saving your life from an animal attacking you or something like that. But today, we have stress from our boss, our kids, our peers, our coworkers, not knowing enough about something, being judged about something, competition, all these things that are self-made, they're self-inflicted. And until you understand that, you're not going to be able to change that. So the bottom line of what this message is all about is think about the perceived versus the actual fear for your life that you experience, and then outweigh the consequence of giving into that fear versus going through it. So what I mean by that is if you're fearful of X, Y, and Z, this test you have, making the team, asking that person out, applying for that job, going back to school, becoming a professional athlete is a dream, whatever it is, if the perceived fear is going to lead to you feeling regret, you feeling sad, you feeling like, what if I did that? Is it actually going to harm you by trying? Or are you so worried about the perceived fear that it's actually affecting your physiology and it's paralyzing you? Because that's what happens. These thoughts create chemicals. These chemicals interact with our body feels things, and it usually leads to us sitting on the sidelines saying things like, oh, it must be nice, or asking, what would it be like if I had done that? Or I wonder how my life would have been different. Or, man, I wish I did that, regret. So at the end of the day, you need to audit, why are you holding yourself back, and what are you willing to do for the things that you want and need in your life?